If you are watching this video, then you are interested in water glassing eggs. So today that's what we're going to talk about. So what is water glassing eggs? Well, it's a way to preserve eggs in their natural form. These are not pickled eggs. They're not hard-boiled. If I were to crack one of these open, they would be just like a fresh egg. So lots of people ask me how long these will stay good. And the answer is we don't have any solid studies to tell us, but some people say up to 2 years. The truth is that these were preserved this way historically just to keep you through the winter. You know, there's that winter slump when you have chickens when they kind of suppress their laying. So that's what these are meant for. Water glassing eggs isn't the only way to preserve eggs for fresh use. You could also freeze them. You just crack them, whisk them, and throw them in a bag and then freeze them up. And this is great, it works wonderfully, but it takes up valuable freezer space and frankly, I forget to thaw them out before I need them. Okay, so what do you need in order to water glass your eggs? Well, you need a container with a lid, you need a kitchen scale, some pickling lime, non-chlorinated water, and some eggs. So when I water glass my eggs, I use these half-gallon mason jars. Now you can use other containers. This is not required. Some people do it in 5-gallon buckets. Some people do it in smaller containers. I use these because they're kind of a handy size. They hold about 18 to 20 eggs. And if something were to happen to this, if it were to get, knocked around by a toddler, say, and I were to lose those eggs, it wouldn't be a big loss. So I like this size. So regarding your scale, you're going to want to be able to measure in ounces. You're going to want to be able to measure both your pickling lime and your water in ounces. So make sure your scale has that capability. So the next thing you're going to need is some pickling lime. Pickling lime is technically calcium hydroxide. It's also called builder's lime or slack lime, hydrated lime, but only pickling lime is food safe. So I go ahead and buy this kind. It can be hard to find locally, so we'll put an Amazon link in the description. So regarding your water, you're going to need at least a quart if you're doing a half-gallon mason jar, and you want it to be non-chlorinated. There's not a whole lot of research on whether chlorinated water would be okay, but historically speaking, they didn't have chlorine in their water, so I opt for non-chlorinated. So the last thing you're going to need, obviously the most important, is your eggs. What you want are fresh eggs. Store-bought will not work. They need to have the bloom intact, so they cannot be washed, they cannot be refrigerated, and they should be less than 24 hours old. This is an example of an egg that you would not want to use because you don't want to put this in the mix, and if you wash it off, you'll end up washing off the bloom too. So let's go ahead and actually water glass some eggs. So you're going to want to put your container on your scale and zero it out so that we're not measuring the weight of the container, we're just going to measure the weight of our pickling lime. And this is what the pickling lime looks like. It's a really fine powder, and when we start working with this, it can cloud up, so be very careful not to breathe it in. So I'm going to go ahead and just add 1 ounce of pickling lime. Almost there. There we go. Okay, so now it's time for our water. I've zeroed my scale again so that I'm not measuring the lime or the container. I'm just going to measure the water. And my husband said I should say a pint's a pound the world around. So we're either going to have 2 pounds or 1 quart, which is 4 cups. So I can either go straight to this line or I can go by my scale. It's the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and carefully add in my 4 cups or 2 pounds of water. A little over. That's okay. Half an ounce ain't going to kill us. So the next thing we're going to do is just stir this up. And you'll notice it looks a bit like milk. Some of the hydrated lime is going to dissolve into solution, and some of it is going to float around and then eventually settle out, and that's okay. And then we're just going to gently take our clean, fresh eggs that have no cracks, and we're going to set them down into the solution. And just be careful not to drop them, and you're going to get your hands wet, and that's okay. So I'm just going to take these guys and Put them in here. And this jar will hold 18 to 20 eggs. And if I get 12 in here and I don't have any more that day, I can add more later. That's okay. As long as all of your eggs are covered by the solution, you're good. You can keep adding to this jar until it's full. That's all the eggs I have today, and again, I can add more in the coming days, but now that I'm done with this jar, I'm going to go ahead and cover it. I don't have to have a proper canning lid. I can just do this to keep the dust out, but I will want to go ahead and label it so I know when it's from. And then I want to put this in a cool location, somewhere where it's not going to get jostled or disturbed, somewhere where a toddler's not going to try and move it around and crack all the eggs. And this can sit for 6 to 12 months. Now that you've water glassed eggs, we're going to look at how to use water glass eggs. This is what they look like eventually. The solution will clear out and the extra hydrated lime will settle to the bottom, and that's fine. These were water glassed about 3 months ago, and this was just done for demonstration so that you guys can see what they're like. When you open the jar, there shouldn't be any funky stuff floating on top. There shouldn't be any foul smell. There shouldn't be any smell at all. And so all we're going to do is pull out one of these eggs. Okay, I like to rinse mine off just because that lime that settled on the shell can be gritty if it happens to make it into your egg dish. And then I crack them one at a time just to be sure none of them have gone bad in storage. So there you go. Just like a normal egg, but it's 3 months old. So sometimes, as with any older egg, the yolk will be a little weaker and sometimes will break when you crack the egg, but as you can see, this one is just fine. In fact, most of the time, they're even okay enough that you can separate the eggs without any issue. So I hope today's video was helpful. If you want to learn more about how we store our eggs in the short term, go ahead and check out this video. And if you want to learn more about our girls and the ones that give us these beautiful eggs, check out this video.